Hello, back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the war between Israel and Hezbollah, and I've got several big updates to share with you here today. Before we get into that, just a quick reminder I am still sick right now, so I apologize. My voice is not 100% right now, and I have to clear my throat every now and then just to speak. So I thank you so much for your patience, guys, as I'm continuing to heal and get better today. So let's jump right into the news. Let's start with this story here. Israel targets Hezbollah's defense minister Wafiq Safa in central Beirut. So just about an hour ago at the time that I record this, we had a major airstrike in Beirut, this time in actually central Beirut. Usually we've been seeing airstrikes in southern Beirut in the Dahia suburbs, which apparently is supposed to be a major Hezbollah stronghold. But looks like now we had an airstrike now in central Beirut. We have reports of 18 people that have been killed, and I'm hearing upwards of almost 100 people being injured just in this one strike alone. And also, we had multiple other airstrikes going on in Beirut apparently as well. So, lots of people being injured in attacks over here just tonight in Lebanon. And currently, just for reference, it is 1:24 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in the United States, and today's date being October 10th, 2024. So I want to talk more about this today. Who is Wafiq Safa, the defense minister, and why was he targeted? And we have a report here. Apparently, he did survive this attack. And as you can see here, the building completely crumbled to the ground. So somehow he was able to survive it. I've got a report from Reuters apparently claiming he has survived. Okay. And then also we've got reports that Israeli soldiers apparently fired on a UN peacekeeping force, one of their bases up in Lebanon, apparently coming under attack. I think like a observation post was struck by an Israeli Merkava tank. Apparently, they fired one of their shells and struck that post, and apparently the UN forces that were manning that observation post apparently fell out of it. So we're going to be talking about that, as well as the UN is definitely striking back at Israel and for that attack on that base, obviously. So we'll be discussing that as well. And then also, I have reports that Israel's cabinet is convening tonight. And apparently, just in the last like 20 minutes or so, the time that I record this, I think the meeting has already begun. And apparently, they're going to be voting on what they're planning to do to strike back against Iran. Okay, so let's jump right into the news. Let me start out here with this report from Reuters. And it says here, Israeli airstrikes in central Beirut kill 18, security source says. Hezbollah figure targeted. Okay. This just coming out today. Israeli strikes on central Beirut on Thursday night killed 18 people and wounded at least 92. Hezbollah's health ministry said, as Lebanese security source said, at least one senior Hezbollah figure was targeted in the attacks. A thick column of smoke rose in the heart of Beirut, and Reuters witnesses said at least one strike hit near a gas station in a densely packed residential neighborhood of apartment buildings and small shops. Also says here a large fire blazed in the background as rescue workers used torches to search the rubble for survivors, according to video broadcasts by Hezbollah's Al-Manar television. The identity of the Hezbollah target was not clear. The neighborhood was not previously hit by Israel and is well removed from Beirut's southern suburbs. Iran-backed Hezbollah's headquarters repeatedly bombed by Israel. There was no immediate comment on the incident by Israel, but its army issued a new evacuation warning on Thursday night for Beirut's southern suburbs, including specific buildings. Okay, so apparently Israel did issue some evacuation warnings prior to these strikes once again. And then we had a strike on an apartment building inside of central Beirut, apparently targeting this defense minister. I'll have a picture of him in just a moment as well. So let's hop on over here to X for just a moment. Vicegrad24 breaking Israeli airstrike decapitation airstrike hits Beirut, targeting Wafiq Safa. He is Hezbollah's defense minister and Nasrallah's brother-in-law. No word yet on whether he was eliminated, but entire targeted building collapsed. Okay, so Nasrallah is Hassan Nasrallah, the former Secretary General of Hezbollah that was eliminated a few weeks back in an airstrike inside of Beirut. So this is apparently a picture that came out that we had for you guys on the waiting screen when you came in that shows this building completely collapsed to the ground. And we've got a lot of Lebanese civilians that are trying to search through the rubble to locate whoever might have been stuck underneath this building as it completely collapsed, okay? So also here's a picture of what I believe is Wafiq Safa. So it says here from Mount Lebanon, breaking news confirmed. Wafiq Safa, one of the most dangerous terrorists to ever walk on Lebanese soil, has just been eliminated. Thank you, Israel. So there was some reports here on X, some people saying that he was eliminated. And a lot of times what I have seen is whenever Israel carries out airstrikes inside of Beirut, or even in Gaza for that matter, generally what we see is a lot of people coming out already saying that whatever the target was eliminated, even if the IDF has not come out and announced that he has been, or if there's no official report. So take it with a grain of salt, as again, I've got some information from Reuters directly saying he has survived. So this is apparently a picture of him right here. So moving on to our next update now from the informant. If indeed reports of the assassination of Wafiq Safa, the target of today's Israeli strike in Beirut, are true, this is another very significant assassination and another painful blow to Hezbollah. So apparently it would have been if he was taken out, but again, the information I have shows that he has apparently survived. I'm not sure how he did, considering that the building collapsed. Maybe he got out of the building just in time. Who knows what happened? But we've got an 8-second clip here that shows chaos, and this person's window was busted out after the airstrike struck nearby this person's residence. Take a look. Okay, so we can see massive panic outside. Many people in the streets after this airstrike took place. We can see a fire over here in somebody's residential home over here as well across the street. So pretty crazy. Yet again, another major airstrike inside of Beirut. Here's a picture as well from Ozen Defender. Several major airstrikes within the last hour on the Lebanese capital of Beirut, with a high-rise building reportedly to have collapsed while multiple others sustained serious damage. So they shared a picture here as well for us, as multiple airstrikes apparently were being carried out in Beirut, not just on Wafiq Safa, the target of tonight's attempted assassination. So here's the original report. We'll just quickly go over this. From Reuters, senior Hezbollah figure Wafiq Safa survives Israeli strike in Beirut, sources say. So this just came out October 10, 2024 as well. And it says right here, senior Lebanese armed group Hezbollah figure Wafiq Safa survives an Israeli assassination attempt in Beirut on Thursday, 3 security sources told Reuters. Earlier on Thursday, a Lebanese security source told Reuters that an Israeli strike on central Beirut targeted at least one senior official in Hezbollah. Okay, so there is some other information as well to share with you guys, that apparently what we had happen as well as somebody was apparently recording and taking pictures of the building, and apparently Lebanese military that was there at the site had detained this man who was taking pictures, and apparently they believed he may have been an Israeli spy. And we also had some reports just the other day as well, I think it was yesterday, that apparently there was another man who was arrested, apparently being involved with Israel's Mossad, their intelligence spy agency. So looks like what is happening here inside of Beirut is how Israel's able to target some of these leaders of Hezbollah, maybe majority of them, is apparently there's a lot of spies inside of Lebanon operating on behalf of Israel. So there was definitely 2 of them just over the last 24 hours that I heard of that were arrested, many of them even being beaten in the streets by some of the Lebanese civilians that found out that this potentially was a spy. So now we're going to move on to the next topic from Megatron Ron. Breaking: Israel began firing on Irish peacekeepers in Lebanon this morning. 2 peacekeepers were injured after an IDF Merkava tank fired its weapon towards an observation tower at UNIFIL's headquarters in Nakura, directly hitting it and causing them to fall. The injuries are fortunately this time not serious, but they remain in a hospital, UNIFIL reports. Multiple reports say that they were Irish peacekeepers who had previously refused to withdraw on Israeli orders. So from what I understand from this, Hezbollah operates very close to some of these UNIFIL camps, some of these bases that UNIFIL operates in. And apparently one of the tanks fired and struck one of the posts, the observation posts. And according to this information, some of the troops apparently fell out of it after it was hit. Okay, so here's the official report from Times of Israel alerts. Live update: UNIFIL rejects Israeli request to evacuate posts along the Lebanon border. So this was the report from the Times of Israel stating that UNIFIL apparently decided that they were going to reject the request from Israel to evacuate their posts along the border. And apparently this is why we had this attack take place. Okay, so Ozen Defender also following reports earlier today that several UNIFIL positions in southern Lebanon suffered damage as a result of recent Israeli strikes. Israeli officials have stated, and UNIFIL officials have confirmed, that the Israeli Defense Force has told UNIFIL Command to withdraw to the north of the Litani River several times in the last week, with UNIFIL having refused. Okay, so apparently these UN peacekeepers are refusing to withdraw beyond the Litani River, and Israel has called on them to do so. So this is probably why this event occurred. And then this was also the original statement from the IDF as well. Hezbollah operates from within and near civilian areas in southern Lebanon, including areas near UNIFIL posts. The IDF is operating in southern Lebanon and maintains routine communication with UNIFIL. IDF troops operated in the area of Nakura next to a UNIFIL base. Accordingly, the IDF instructed the UN forces in the area to remain in protected spaces, after which the forces opened fire on the area. So it doesn't look like they're completely denying the fact that they may have struck one of these posts, but apparently that's what happened today. Okay, so I wanted to share that with you. Now I want to talk about this cabinet meeting tonight that Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and then top officials of the IDF are going to be meeting and deciding how they're going to respond to Iran. What are they going to do? How will they strike Iran? So this report from Vicegrad 24, CNN reports that the Israeli cabinet is meeting today to vote on the country's response to the recent ballistic missile attack against Israel by the Islamic regime in Iran. So as you can see, that was around 9 a.m. just this morning. Then we had this report coming out just about 45 minutes ago or so at the time that I record this. Ozen Defender, tonight's meeting of the Israeli Security Cabinet has begun. Okay, so right around 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is when we heard that apparently this meeting has begun, and we may be hearing sometime later today on whether they will decide they're going to strike back or what's going to happen. But the most we'll probably hear is that they have made a decision on what they're going to do, and we'll see if they announce that they're going to strike back. Okay, so a few more things to share with you here now. These are just kind of miscellaneous things that I've been finding out coming out from Iran, Israel, Hezbollah, things like that. Okay, so Megatron Ron new. It looks like Iran will announce publicly that it possesses nuclear weapons. 40 Iranian members of parliament, excuse me, have written a letter to the Supreme National Security Council urging them to consider changing Iran's nuclear policy regarding the development of nuclear weapons. Okay, so this is something we've been talking about for a few days now, and apparently 40 Iranian members of parliament writing a letter to the Supreme National Security Council, okay, and urging them to consider changing their nuclear policy, which could indicate that Iran could start moving towards building nuclear weapons, or they could announce that they already have one, who knows. But it looks like we could be hearing in the near future that Iran will announce publicly that they do now have nuclear weapons, okay? So be prepared for that. Current report, an aide to IRGC Chief Commander, there will be no war, but to save face, Israel might target one point at Iran. In response, we will target tens of security, military, and economic centers in Israel. We had launched 200 missiles recently, but we are prepared to launch thousands of missiles if necessary. So interesting that this aide to the RGC Chief Commander coming out saying that there will be no war, but they're willing to target Israel with up to thousands of ballistic missiles again. Now, we just saw 200 being fired recently, and Israel's already saying, okay, we're going to have to strike back at Iran this time. We can't allow this to go by unscathed. We will strike back and hit them. So, this could definitely be a tit-for-tat strike thing going back and forth for a while. But how will they obviously be able to completely remove themselves from getting into a war with Israel if this continues on for a very long time? That's something that I've been asking over the last few days now. So we'll see what happens here. But apparently an aide to the RGC Chief Commander coming out and saying that he believes there will be no war, but they will strike back and hit Israel 10 times harder with thousands of ballistic missiles. So also from Clash Reports, Gulf states are actively lobbying the United States to prevent Israel from launching attacks on Iran's oil facilities. Countries including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar are particularly worried about the potential fallout from Israeli military actions against Iran. They fear that if Israel attacks, Iran may retaliate against Gulf oil facilities, jeopardizing their economic stability and security. these Gulf nations have reportedly denied Israel the use of their airspace for any military operations targeting Iran, and the source apparently was Reuters. Okay, so this was the original report this morning from Reuters, and it says exclusive: stop Israel from bombing Iran's oil sites, Gulf states urge U.S. So many Gulf nations were calling to prevent Israel from striking on Iran, and they're afraid, obviously, of Iranian retaliation on their nations. So this was a huge report just coming out this morning. As it says here, the Gulf nations have reportedly denied Israel the use of their airspace for any military operations targeting Iran. That was a true statement, as we have this report here as well from BRICS News. Just in, Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, refused to allow Israel to use their airspace for attacks on Iran. Okay, so looks like many of these Gulf nations are not going to allow Israel to use their airspace to attack Iran in any way. So what is Israel going to do if they can't fly over their airspace to go attack them? It's going to be very interesting, but we did hear from Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, yesterday that their attack would be surprising, and Iran apparently would not know what is happening and how things are developing. So apparently it's going to be some sort of surprise attack is what we're hearing, probably something similar to what we saw with Hezbollah recently, where we had all these pagers exploding and some radios, devices, lots of electronics exploding inside of Lebanon. It probably won't be that exact attack, but maybe it'll be something along the lines of that. Definitely something unexpected, which a lot of people were not prepared for when we saw those pagers exploding inside of Lebanon. So definitely huge news. So we'll see what happens in regards to that. Finally, one last thing I want to share with you guys from Mossad Defender. Iranian sources are now claiming that Brigadier General Esmail Qaani, the commander of the Quds Force under the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, IRGC, was not killed by an Israeli airstrike in Beirut and is alive in Tehran, though he has reportedly been placed on house arrest by the IRGC security service and is being investigated for possible intelligence breaches related to Israel. While being questioned recently, he suffered a heart attack and was hospitalized, with him believed to now be back at home. So this was a huge story that came out today. We reported on Esmail Qaani. Apparently, Israel believed that he had been eliminated in an airstrike inside of Beirut. I think it was at the time that Hashem Safa was being targeted. We did a whole report on that. He was Nasrallah's cousin, I believe. I think he was a family member related to him, or brother, something like that. And apparently he was eliminated that day, Hashem Safa, and at the same time, what was being reported was Esmail Qaani, the Brigadier General of the RGC, was reportedly in that bunker at the same time, and they believed he had been eliminated. And then Iran came out reporting that they had lost contact with Esmail Qaani. Now we're hearing that supposedly he has been interrogated by the RGC or Iran, and apparently could be involved with spying potentially for the Israelis. And maybe that's why we had that attack on Qasem Safieddin, who knows? And apparently, too, while he was being interrogated, he had a heart attack during the interrogation, and apparently, according to this information, appears to be back at home. Okay, so very big information coming out in regards to Esmail Qaani, as we've been seeing lots of information surfacing about him lately as to whether he was okay, was he killed in the recent airstrikes in Beirut or not. So lots of big news coming out from this war over here between Israel and Hezbollah. This is some of the latest details I was able to gather for you guys. So I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.